House Bill 726, Representative Chuck Sims. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I bring you House Bill 726. It's a repeal to population provision. I'm the guru of trying to get rid of those things. Basically, what this bill does is in certain urban areas, it has to relate to campus police officers and how they can actually go off campus and patrol off campus. Like here in Atlanta at Georgia State and Georgia Tech, the campuses are pretty spread out. They have, buildings in different areas, also have dormitories in different areas. But this would, if we repeal this, it would also help those communities like Young Harris, Bernal, and those areas of the world that don't have the same population as does Fulton County or the urban areas. And this was a population act that just was it was intended, but it had unintended consequences with these other areas. That's all the bill does. It repeals the provision, allows the police officers to have that same jurisdiction that they would anyway. Do I have any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Okay. Anybody else want to speak for or against the bill? See none.
There's one back there.
Oh, okay. You need to get those sign-up sheets, if you will, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Susanna Baxter with the Georgia Independent College Association. We are in full support of this bill. It would help a number of our campuses.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Move to the committee, please. Need a motion. 14.
Mr. Chairman, move to pass.
Okay. I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee.
Okay. Okay.
Good luck.
Okay, why don't we call up House Bill 1039 just for a quick hearing, and I'm going, this is a bill I sponsored, I think, and some others, so, but I'm going to turn it over to Les Snyder. Les, you want to approach the, this is only for a hearing only, so.
Members of the committee, my name is Les Schneider. I'm an attorney with Wimberly & Lawson, and I'm not here representing anybody in particular today. This is an educational measure, but this is just an idea that I had that I shared with Representative Rogers and some other reps, and I would like you to think hard and long about it. Obviously, human talent and human potential in this state can be very great, but the state hopefully needs to pull out all that it can from the people who live here. It needs to encourage the best and the brightest, no matter how much money they make or how little money they make or their parents made, to try to get the most education that they can get. My mother was a reading teacher, and she had a lot of compassion and a lot of passion for education. And the one thing she instilled in me is one thing you do is you always help the child. You help the child succeed. Well, this pro bono mission that I'm taking on today is the fact that I think we need to push our colleges, private and public, the technical schools, to reach out for that extra 1% of people and provide them the type of payment plan that if you're in your right mind and you're a student, you just couldn't refuse if you have the potential. And that's why this bill is before you. As you can see on line 15 of the bill, it's called Pay As You Earn Education Program Act. You all know that we have the HOPE program that's probably the most successful scholarship program in the country. We have TEG. We have a 1% loan program. We have the REACH scholarship program that Governor Deal has started. all of these programs make going to school a little bit more affordable. This pay-as-you-earn program is the last piece of the puzzle where the state of Georgia should become known as the state that does not allow or tolerate letting money get in the way of getting an education. The mechanics of the program are simple. If we look at all the schools that can participate, and in the bill, the private colleges and universities can opt in to participate, and the publics would be part of the program also, and the technical schools would participate. Let's say a school has 3,000 students. We would take 1%, which is really 30 students, and those students, if they can get into the school on their merits, not having to take remedial courses or anything like that, but being able to be college ready and go to school, then those students have a different program that they can apply to. And the program would be that while they were in school for the 4 years, they would pay $1,000 a year. In addition, when they get out of school, instead of having some of the backbreaking loans that all of you, I'm sure, have heard about from your constituents and how expensive school is, they would basically be committed to have to pay 3% of their adjusted gross income for the next 15 years back to the school where they went. So again, we're taking away the issue that if you're smart enough and you want to work hard enough, you can go to school and you have a pay-as-you-earn program. And many of you know there are people who perhaps want to be a teacher or want to do an occupation that we really need in this state. And yet they're worried that if they only make $50,000 a year for the next 15 years, they're not going to be able to afford paying off $150,000 worth of loans or $100,000 worth of loans. So those people in that example would pay $1,500 a year for the 15 years, which would be affordable, and they would be able to get the education and the training that we want them so desperately to get. In addition, the school would receive a $1,000 tax credit, whether they're paying sales tax or income tax or property, whatever tax they would pay, even as a nonprofit. Even nonprofits have certain taxes at their bookstore where they're having sales tax being paid. The state would give that school a credit. So in essence, the school would be getting $2,000 a year for the 4 years that the student is in school, and then the student again would have to pay 3% of their adjusted gross income. As you can see in the bill, that there is another provision where somebody can pay the loan back early and get somewhat of a discount if they so choose. Again, all of the people involved, as you see on lines 95 and 98 of the bill, they would have to be able to go in school and not stay there for an eternity, but if it's a 4-year degree, they have to get out in 4 years. If it's a 5-year degree, they'd have to get out in 5 years. But at the end of the day, I think we are, again, expanding the opportunity for people to go to school, whether it's a technical school, a private school, a public school, but we're encouraging this last piece that no one in this state, if this passes along with all the other scholarship and loan programs we have, no one should have an excuse that we will not let money get in the way of somebody getting an education, but it's not a free ride. They would have to pay money, but we make it affordable. And the biggest problem we have today is the fact that people get out of school and they've got so much debt that my fear is there are some people that don't even want to take on that debt, and therefore they shy away and they take the course of least resistance instead of being able to perhaps get that nursing degree or get that law degree or get a degree from one of the technical schools. So they have the skill set, which only puts more tax dollars back into this state from the people if they're earning better than they're doing. So that's the modest proposal. I understand from the chairman, obviously you're not voting on this today, but I would hope that we can take this idea and this legislation and add this to the last piece so that Georgia can be known as the school that never lets money get in the way of education. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Les on this matter? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Les. We'll work on that over the interim and later on. So. Anybody else want to speak for or against the bill? It's only a hearing only. Okay. Okay, we have a hearing. Is Representative Scott here? Okay, you want to come up and briefly tell us about 1044, please?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1044, Higher Education Access and Success for Homeless and Foster Youth Act. This legislation will remove barriers and help homeless and foster care students achieve a better future through the higher education. It would also provide in-state tuition at units of the University System of Georgia and branches of the technical colleges for youth who are from homeless or foster care situations. It will exclude foster care assistance from consideration as income for purposes of calculated financial aid. That is the basis of the bill.
So what you're saying is now a child in foster care cannot obtain an opportunity? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they do have an opportunity to go to school, but what this bill will do, this bill will afford them an opportunity where they can go to school and have a point of contact at the colleges and university. When students that are homeless and in foster care, a lot of times they're left out and they have no guidance once they get to college. And what this bill is going to do, now that all the high schools in the state should have homeless liaison, that homeless liaison will partner with a liaison from the colleges and universities so that they can track the homeless students when they enroll in the college and give them a point of contact where they can have assistance to help them make it through college because of their situations in life.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions from committee members? Okay. Thank you. I think we had some other folks want to speak on this bill. Michael Daly was one from, is that you?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we just hand them, we'll, down here they'll hand them out.
Thank you for this opportunity. Again, my name is Mike Daly. I'm with the Orange Duffel Bag Initiative. And the first document that I'd like passed around simply shows what we do and who we work with. This bill is very exciting for the state of Georgia because it was crafted in collaboration with both public and private institutions focused on improving the access and completion rates for our most vulnerable teens, those who are homeless or in foster care. Currently in the state, we have 35,000 homeless students. This impacts every county across the state. We have approximately 4,000 students that we graduate every year after focusing and investing through the McKinney-Vento Act, the homeless liaisons, the guidance counselors, and K through 12. We get them to the finish line, they graduate high school, and if for some reason in the state of Georgia, we don't connect them to higher ed. They simply apply to higher ed, and then they're left to navigate post-secondary on their own. And we know consistently through research, through all of the advocacy groups, and all the leadership teams that I'm a part of, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, that the lack of connectivity is what is creating the issues that we have for their lack of being able to complete college. So they have tuition issues the very first year, they have housing issues the very first year, and as we've gone and talked to each of the universities and to the homeless liaisons at the K through 12, K through 12 has said, if I just had somebody at a college campus that I could call and let them know that John's coming on campus, that he is either in foster care or a homeless student, and that he has this grade point average, SAT scores, because there are services and there are benefits and programs that every university campus has developed for these students. And then on that side, Marcy Stidham, who's a student success director for KSU, she says, if I just knew John was coming on my campus, I'd have been able to catch him before he went into crisis mode. So why can't we connect the student from K through 12 to higher ed? And that was the big question that came up in every meeting. We should be able to do better as a state. We're graduating 4,000 bright kids who are ready for college, and then we lose them. So we started asking, well, what happens to the kids? We must be tracking them. And we found out consistently we're not tracking any of our students after they pass K through 12. The McKinney-Vento Congressional Act mandated county homeless liaisons in every county so that the student be connected to schools and that they be focused on education stability and graduation. It's a great model, great support, and now we're asking for the same in higher ed. So this has been crafted in collaboration with the cooperation and input from the USG Board of Regents, Sheila Jones, Amanda Seals, and Vice Chancellor Joyce Jones, with guidance and research from NACY's Higher Education Leadership Policy Director, Barbara Duffield, and the Higher Education Liaison for Homelessness, Sakia Lee. And with organizations such as ourselves, which you'll see we work with 9 of the universities, 2 of the technical schools, we work with the University Board of Regents, United Way, the governor's office, we're on every single leadership team focused on trying to improve higher education rates for our most vulnerable teens. We have 35,000 homeless teens, 7,800 youth in foster care, and our graduation rates are embarrassing. We don't track it, we don't provide them the support, we don't provide them the connectivity. So the bill was crafted to do just that. In a spirit of collaboration, develop a plan, a post-secondary plan that would allow the legislature, the state, the stakeholders, and most of all, the people that have been committed in investing in these teens, the tracking to know what has happened with them and to know that they can be successful in post-secondary. We lose over 50% over the first year. We have less than a 2% graduation rate of youth in foster care, yet youth in foster care come with great benefits from tuition, with ETVs from CHEFI. So we're wondering, well, why, if we're not connecting them to higher ed in an efficient and effective manner, how are we really looking at the funding? Are there tuition opportunities? Are we really providing the support that they need? Well, if they're navigating post-secondary on their own and they're not connecting to the people on the campus that can help them be successful, then what we've done is we've failed that student who we've carried all the way through K through 12 to make sure that they graduate, and then we've left them in post-secondary. So in each of the leadership panels that I've been a part of, it has come up each time that we need to have a single point of contact. So this bill asks that the university, the urgent resolution, asks that the university system and technical colleges appoint a single point of contact. The immediate response is, that's got to be expensive. Do we have the budget for that? Well, the reality is Colorado has done it, North Carolina has done it, and both states have come back and said, not only did it benefit the students, it provided us the tracking and the accountability, but it benefited the university system because we were able to provide resources more effectively, more efficiently, and best of all, we were able to track and measure. So I want to use Kennesaw State University. Provost Dr. Ken Harmon was just speaking at a conference. And KSU is one of the few schools that has a single point of contact and has a set of benefits at an actual department, the CARES department. It was just in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution yesterday. Because they've been able to track over 60 students a year that become homeless after arriving on campus. So these aren't even homeless students that were certified homeless as a senior, who are now coming on campus as a homeless student. These are 60 post-secondary students that came on with full support who became homeless because of death in the family, an illness, or some sort of economic crisis. So add on to the number of students that we have going into post-secondary, again, 4,000 teenagers will graduate this summer, and we're not connecting them to post-secondary. Add to that the students that become homeless. We have a real opportunity because we're able to connect and provide them support. We're moving them through the progress of post-secondary, which is what we all need for economic development. So Dr. Harmon said, now that we have the data, because I can make a data-driven decision, I'm allocating more resources to the KSU CARES program. So the model of KSU shows exactly what this bill is offering. It's offering the opportunity for Georgia to lead the way nationally to recognize that we have this crisis, that we have this opportunity of really supporting these bright and talented kids, but that we're also going to have the accountability and measurement to better plan for resources, right? And also provide accountability and graduation rates back to the governor's office because that's what they've asked for. So from post-secondary, from the Board of Regents, from the technical schools, to the homeless liaisons, to the superintendents, all of these people have been involved in crafting this initiative and this bill. So not only are we proud and honored to have a hearing, we certainly hope you'll move this to a vote because it won't cost the state any monies, but it will provide you the accountability, the focus, and the attention to detail that's necessary, but most of all, it's going to connect the students. If you have homeless liaisons saying, if I could just call one person to connect John so that they get the services they deserve, and you have the person on the other side saying, if I could just do my job, if I just knew John was on my campus, I could really provide him great service. So oftentimes they'll come back and say, well, the reason why we can't do that is because of FERPA. FERPA laws won't allow us to talk to each other. Candidly, I'm a third-party nonprofit. I work with the Board of Regents, I work with the school system, and I work with high schools and universities. They sign a FERPA form, I'm able to communicate education data, and I'm not a school system. So the homeless liaisons have the authority in filling out FAFSA to communicate on behalf of the student. So tracking is possible. Communicating their issues is possible. And again, these are students that need the support because when they enter post-secondary, they're normally navigating it on their own. So again, United Way, Governor's Office, USG Board of Regents, technical schools, homeless liaisons, and community partners have drafted this bill that allows Georgia to lead the way. So I hope you'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for any?
Real quick, I have a letter to read. Sorry. So Marcy Stidham, Kennesaw State University, in the AJC yesterday, 2 of the students that were featured that were homeless, we're going to come and speak to you about post-secondary homelessness. Again, we have 4,000 students that we are graduating each year, not connecting. So then this letter I was asked to read from the Fulton County Homeless Liaison. There's 12,000 homeless high school students in just the metro Atlanta area, Gwinnett, Cobb, Fulton, DeKalb, Marietta. That's 12,000 homeless students. So this impacts every county. And when they don't succeed, they go back to their communities and then using the resources of the community. So this is why it's so important. And Sarah Smith says, I'm writing to express my support of House Bill 1044 and to ask you to vote yes for this critical bill. As the homeless education liaison for Fulton County Schools, I see the struggles and barriers that our students face every day, both inside and outside of school. To the students that are able to persevere through extremely dire home circumstances and still graduate from high school and get accepted into college, it is devastating to see their dreams crushed because they are unable to navigate the system and lack the financial support needed to succeed in post-secondary. Some key solutions that would help are to provide a single point of contact, a SPOC on every college campus in Georgia for homeless and foster youth and K-12 staff to contact in order to assist the students as they transition into college. Having a SPOC on every campus would connect our students, many of them who are first-generation college students, to available services and resources that they so desperately need. Also extending the McKinney-Vento model and definition from K-12, which is agreed by all as one of the best definitions and provides true clarity as to the resources and the eligibility. Bringing it to post-secondary would greatly benefit the students we have been able to identify and serve since this act was reauthorized in 2002. Currently in Fulton County schools, we have 1,353 students who meet the definition of homeless this school year. 154 of those are juniors and seniors who we hope will be matriculating into college within the next 2 years. These students deserve the same educational rights and support in college that they have received during their K-12 years. McKinney-Vento has been hugely successful in the K-12 setting and would help bridge the gap in the college, bridge the gap to college and make the transition more seamless for the homeless students. And finally, this bill would help more accurately track and measure the needs and outcomes for these students, providing the educational system with better information to guide us in the future. Thank you so much for consideration and support of our children and our youth. We hope you'll allow this to go to a vote. Thank you, sir.
This is only a hearing only on the bill, so just clear the air on that. I think we have several people want to speak on behalf of the bill, the hearing. And if I mispronounce your name, y'all can go sit down. Okay. That'd be fine. Chanassa Emma Loke. Sorry if I mispronounced that. So you can correct us up there, or correct me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chinasa Enujoke. I'm a student at Georgia State University.
Will you move closer to the mic, please,
Sure.
or pull the mic towards you, if you will.
Okay. Like I said, my name is Chinasa Enujoke. I'm a student at Georgia State University. I'm a sophomore. I'm a biology major. When I was in high school, I became homeless towards my junior year. I had so many resources. I had people to talk to people to help me out. Whenever I needed something, when I had problem with teachers, when I had nobody to talk to, I had all those resources there in high school. But then I got accepted to different colleges. I chose Georgia State. When I got to Georgia State, I had nobody to talk to. I had nobody. I knew nothing. When I went to my orientation, I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody could help me. When I called the people that helped me in high school, they had nobody to contact in this school. So I was just left on my own, stranded. It was hard. Many students do the same thing that I do. I wrote an article in our school newspaper, The Oracle, talking about homelessness in college. It's like nobody really cares about college students. In high school, we have all these resources. In college, we tend to be like forgotten about or something like that. I wrote this article. Many students come up to me, talking to me about it. We're trying to create an organization. We talked to the dean of students, but she cannot do anything. She told me they can't do anything. So it would be great if you guys could support this bill because it will help us a lot. Sometimes we think about dropping. We are not bad students. I have a 3.5 GPA. I'm not that slow in school. I'm really good at it, but I don't have that help or support to do it, and it will be really great. So I'm asking you guys to please think about this deal. Thank you.
Louis Negron, is that correct? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Luis Negron, the United Way. I'm the Senior Director of Education. Just want to let you know that the United Way is in support of this bill, and we've been in collaboration with the Orange Duffel Bag, the University System of Georgia. And from the community standpoint and investment standpoint, there's a big wave of people and investors who are coming to the aid of the students, and that we're here to support the bill in any way we can, and also to let you know that from a community standpoint, money is there for individuals giving donations specifically to this, and there's also grants available that we're, as an intermediary, able to go through and have this here. So when they say their support, the support is there from the United Way. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Lucretia Doyle, is that correct?
Greetings, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lucretia Doyle. I bring you greetings from Center for Children and Young Adults. I'm the program manager. It's a residential facility for foster teens. Currently work with youth ages 17 to 21. Most of my youth in my program having a hard time getting in college. This bill will support them to get in college and get them the things that they need. I have several youth that graduated from the Orange Duffel Bag program. We've been supporting Orange Duffel Bag for the last 3 years. The program has great support and initiative to support the young people through internships, externships, college, even aftercare services. I was just sharing today with some of the colleagues from Orange Duffel Bag that I have a young lady who is graduating this year. She has the highest SAT score in DeKalb County, and she's at my group home. And to me, that's a success story in itself. Her mom died 2 years ago, and her grandmother died a year after that. Now her aunt is dying of cancer, and she had to come into care due to all of that, and she's still making it. And so I support this bill, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
Well, thank you for being here. Echo, is it Echo? Echo Garrett?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for having us here. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for hearing us. I'm here to speak on behalf of one of our graduates, Jania Stone. She is currently living with me, actually, but I'm with the Orange Duffel Bag as well. Jania, a graduate, was in foster care from the age of 6. She graduated number 3 in her class at Thorell High School in DeKalb County, which is a math and science school. She went to Agnes Scott to study neuroscience, but her very first semester, she started getting afraid about being homeless over the initial campus break. And she ended up going back to a placement. The woman, when she found out she wasn't going to get any money from DFACS for having her there, she refused to take her back to the campus to take her final exams. And my point is that even when sometimes we have our very best and brightest, when they do get on campus and they don't have those resources, they don't have someone they can talk to and feel comfortable sharing their situations, a lot of times they get into these crisis moments where they don't have anybody. And she, like I said, she graduated very top of her class and had a full ride to Agnes Scott, and that went away because of the lack of resources and the on campus. And we're working now to get her back into back into school, but it's been a very difficult situation. And if we had somebody that our students could connect with, it would make absolutely all the difference. And she's just one story. I mean, I hear this every day from our students. So, thanks.
Thank you. What you do. Vice Chancellor Daniel, do you want to speak on this issue and see where y'all are or where you hadn't been? Or this is all new to me. Hate to put you on the spot, but
that's fine, Mr. Chairman. My name's Tom Daniel. I work for the University System of Georgia. Thank you for having this hearing today. As Mr. Daly has pointed out, this is a priority of the university system. We welcome all students. We have been working with Mr. Daly. We've been working with Mr. Daly's organization. Progress has been made. Dr. Joyce Jones, the Vice Chancellor for Student Activities, is making sure that every one of our institutions has a point of contact. So we appreciate the hearings. This is something that is consistent with the governor's priorities of a complete college Georgia. We would like to see more Georgians with a degree. That's consistent with this bill. We appreciate the hearings, and we'll continue to work with you and the people that are interested in this important area.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Baxter, you want to speak on this issue for the private colleges since not to put you on the spot either, but
Susanna Baxter with the Georgia Independent College Association. Echo the Vice Chancellor's comments in that we welcome all students and our partners in the state with a complete college initiative, and so we would be anything we can do to help that pipeline we are interested in.
okay, thank you. Okay, that completes this part of the hearing, and we'll work on that issue over the interim if we need to, so not a problem. You certainly may. What's your vote? One?
Yeah, one. When I read the bill, it spoke specifically to the technical colleges as it relates to the all the rules and regs, but I just didn't see the part where it related itself to the University System of Georgia. Is it applicable to both of them, or just?
We'll let the Representative Scott come back up and explain that, so if she's still in here.
Okay, section 2.
It's in the first part where he talks about the university.
Okay, so that's already law then?
Yeah.
It's got to be. So it's already applicable. Because the technical colleges part is underlined, which is new language, sectional. All right. Then the other question I had was about it's classified as in-state for tuition purposes. How do you when you say classified as in-state, that means you have to have been within the state a 12-month period,
Right.
prior to.
Yeah, I think it's the 12-month period prior to being homeless.
First day of class.
Yes.
I think this is a good bill. I really do. I just wish we had it a little earlier.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who do we have next? Representative Carter, you ready to go with 1007? We'll start with 7 first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. 1007, House Bill 1007 is the first one we're taking. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring before you House Bill 1007, which amends the law to authorize the State Tax Commissioner to create a checkoff to allow taxpayers to contribute money to nonprofit corporations created by the Georgia Student Finance Authority. Current laws authorize the state tax commissioner to provide a tax checkoff to allow individuals to contribute money to the state's low-interest loan programs when they file their state taxes. But this legislation will remove the low-interest loan checkoff and create the one for nonprofits created by the Georgia Student Finance Authority, which will go towards needs-based aid for students.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions from the committee members? Okay.
And I have Tracy Ireland, the president of
Okay.
Georgia Student Finance, if anyone has any further questions. All right.
Tracy, you want to say anything?
He's right here.
Okay, I didn't see him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Regarding House Bill 1007, it does give the Student Finance Authority the revenue from that tax checkoff to fund need-based aid, as Representative Carter pointed out. Currently, the checkoff sends money to 3 low-interest loan programs, and as you're aware, the state funds the one low-interest loan program in a big way. So this money can be better used towards need-based aid and used more quickly, which is the reason that we'd like to change that tax checkoff.
Okay, any other questions? Favor of the committee? Okay, got a motion? All right, any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign, okay. And we go to 1008.
Certainly, House Bill 1008. This bill amends the law to authorize the authority, the same one, the Georgia Student Finance Authority, to create nonprofit corporations and clarify that the authority and the Georgia Student Finance Commission are authorized to solicit and accept funds. And I want to explain to you REACH, which is the Realizing Educational Achievement Can Happen program. It was created by Governor Deal. And what it does is it has the K-12 schools to identify at-risk students, starting primarily in the middle school grades, where these the schools agree to provide mentorship and academic coaching and continue that all the way through high school. With that, though, REACH gives the students $10,000 to start their college experience. Now, I'm giving you that background to tell you a little bit. You know, that's one of the reasons why we want to give the authority to the, we'll give them the authority to solicit and accept funds, because it will go towards these types of scholarships. It also provides private donors with additional avenue to make contributions. One of the reasons that we wanted to create this was because several corporations, foundations, and individuals would prefer to contribute their funds to a nonprofit corporation instead of a state entity. That's one part of the bill. The second part of the bill changes the board makeup. Considering we did have an additional congressional district added back a few years ago, the current law reads 13, and we're changing that. We're just allowing for the 14th congressional district member to be added to that also.
Okay.
And you'll see in the language it strikes 13 members in 2 sections, I see.
And the Board of Commissioners are who now?
Do you want to
Tracy?
answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board is made up of 13 members presently appointed by the governor.
So the commission will be still appointed by the governor, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And each member of the board of the commission also serves in the same capacity on the board of the Student Finance Authority and the Higher Education Assistance
All right,
Corporation.
on the other question I had, the not-for-profit corporations, how are you going to do that?
The Georgia Student Finance Authority will create that entity. Today it doesn't.
In-house, and you're not going to have to hire any other people to do all that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So it wouldn't involve new staff or expenses of that nature.
You have how many now doing this?
Full-time employees, I have 145, something like
So you don't need to hire anybody else?
that. So you never know what the future holds, but not today.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Move to the committee. Okay. Second the motion. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. Okay. Very good. That
Thank
was
you.
easy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more bill. Representative Mayo is here. Yeah, give it to her down there. She'll distribute it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate your attention to House Bill 1040. For the past 20 years, Georgia has done an outstanding job for a hallmark of our state and public policy in our state, and that's the Hope Scholarship. And we've provided several $1 billion and awarded scholarships to several 100,000 students in our Georgia education system. The challenge we have here and what this bill will attempt to address is with our population of youth currently housed in the youth detention centers. The YDCs across this state have their own school systems, and many of the students who graduate receiving their diploma are unable to access the Hope Scholarship. And it's my belief and the belief of the co-sponsors of this bill that these children are some of the most vulnerable, having the greatest special needs. When we look at the incarceration rate and the recidivism rate, many of these folks in our correction system were youthful offenders. At a young age, they may have gotten into trouble, and it just continues and becomes a recurring incident of misbehavior. So I want to point out something in the handout I gave you, because the challenge we're running into is with the language in the Board of Regents' definition of residency. And a resident is defined by some language that would prevent many of our students who have been homeless or independent youth, classified as independent, from accessing the Hope Scholarship. So if you look at the glossary of terms, let's go to the Board of Regents policy manual, the definition of an independent student, which says an independent student who has established and maintained a domicile in the state of Georgia for a period of at least 12 consecutive months. Well, a student must have been a resident of Georgia for at least 12 months to receive and be eligible for Hope. And the word domicile is where we're running into some challenges. If you turn to the tuition classification status, and I highlighted letter F, under the word domicile, it's defined as a person's present permanent home where that individual intends to stay indefinitely and to which that individual returns following periods of temporary absence. Well, none of these students in the YDCs are making that a permanent home. Therefore, for the purpose of qualifying for Hope and in-state residents, they're ineligible, and we're losing many of them. And it's my belief that these students may not have any hope, and that they may not have an opportunity to pursue higher education. And it's very risky to allow them to sit idly for a year to establish residency upon release from the YDC. And we'd prefer that they be eligible for Hope and become productive members of society and support our state and help reduce the rate of recidivism. And this is why we brought this bill. So I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Representative Holcomb, you got a question?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Mayo. As I'm looking at F, the definition of domicile, it states temporary residence does not constitute the establishment of one's domicile. Is that a sufficient workaround? Because if you're incarcerated, then that should be temporary, right?
Well, as you mentioned, it does not. Let me read the line. Where are you reading from, Representative Holcomb?
It's third from the bottom under F.
Okay. So temporary residence does not constitute the establishment of one's domicile. So therefore, their temporary residency, being housed in a YDC is temporary, which does not count as residence. It's not a permanent residence, and therefore they're not considered residents of the state for the purpose of qualifying for HOPE. So because it says it does not constitute the establishment of one's domicile, the temporary residence, it has to be permanent, and there must be a home, and typically mom and dad have that permanent residence, and therefore the non-independent students are protected. But it's for those students who may have been grown up in foster care, who may be independent for one reason or another, and there is no domicile for them to claim other than their temporary housing in the YDC.
I think I understand. Thank you. So those that have parents or a home that they can claim outside of the incarcerated facility, that's an appropriate workaround for them. But really what we're talking about is people that don't have some secondary address that they can refer to.
Right. Yep.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Representative, I've got a question. These youth are in an RYDC for what reason?
Various reasons. So whatever crime they've committed, whatever wrongdoing put them there.
Do what?
Absolutely. Whatever would have them placed in state custody. So I don't think it limits the type of crime committed, but they have committed some offense and misbehaved, but at the same time they're receiving an education while in custody, and it's my belief that they should have an opportunity to correct their wrongdoing and get on the right path. And if they meet the requirements of the Hope Scholarship in terms of GPA and the other stipulations, that we ought not to create another barrier for them in life.
Okay. Any other questions? You got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Mayo, if a young person came into the state of Georgia, if you will, from another state, committed wrongdoing and found themselves in very short order in one of our YDCs and basically spent a year, as someone that grew up in another state, spent a year in a Georgia YDC, could this bill then allow them to be treated to resident or in-state tuition, even though they had really never been a resident of Georgia before coming into the state and entering the YDC system?
That's a good question, Representative. That's not my intent to provide them access and residence status, but it's something that I would encourage you to consider, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Looks like we may need to look at that a little closer, if we could. Thank you.
Any further questions from anybody? I hadn't recognized you, sir. Tracy, why don't you come up here and help us a little bit? Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
You probably need to help us with this situation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the specific scenario that you referenced, the way I read the bill, that it would, in fact, allow those people to be eligible as far as residency is concerned, but the other requirements would still apply. They'd still have to graduate from an eligible high school. They'd still have to meet all the other tests. And as you may remember, an eligible high school doesn't necessarily mean one located in the state of Georgia. It is one that is accredited by the list of accrediting bodies that's in the law. So it is possible, I think, under that scenario that they would gain eligibility.
Okay.
Yes, sir. With respect to the question, would a student who was from another state, who was incarcerated in a Georgia YDC, gain eligibility to HOPE based on this particular section of code if passed? And I believe the way we read it standing here at the moment, yes, they could, but that student would still have to meet all other eligibility requirements. So it doesn't allow them direct access, but it does qualify them from a residency perspective.
Okay. Go ahead. I got your mic on.
Tell me different than being incarcerated within the custody of the state and having a 12-month residence requirement, and the other bill that we just talked about on the 12 months as it relates to
being qualified as in-state in tuition. What's the difference? Is there a difference or is
There is a slight difference today for Hope Scholarship eligibility and for Zell Miller and the others. The student has to be deemed a Georgia resident on the day that they graduate from high school. And then they must have been a resident of the state for 12 months prior to the first day of class, for which they're seeking Hope payment. So the residency requirement on the first day of high school may trip the student up, as I'm thinking about it, but if they've met the 12-month requirement, no, I think it still may let them in.
Because they were, is it because 12 months prior to the class or back to the high school?
It's 2 points of it. It's the 12 months that would do it. We would still want to look at were they a resident of Georgia on the day they graduated from high school. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chancellor Daniel, you're going to need to come back up and address this issue, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. The basic rule of residency is that a student needs to reside in the state of Georgia for 12 months prior to enrollment. That's our basic rule of residency. Then you can apply the Hope issue. This piece of legislation, I believe, is saying that it wants a student who is in the custody of the Department of Juvenile Justice, who is eligible for a Hope Scholarship or Hope Grant, to be able to be eligible immediately if there is any question about his or her residency. So this bill, I believe the intent of this bill is to make sure that an individual in the custody of the Department of Juvenile Justice, if there's any question about their residency, that 12-month period would be waived. Now, if there's an individual that was a resident of Georgia prior to that time being in the custody of the Department of Juvenile Justice, may not have any impact. But I believe there are students that would fall under that category. But the basic rule of residency is you must be a resident of the state of Georgia for 12 months prior to enrollment. Prior to enrollment. And that's the issue that is misunderstood many times, because a student will enroll as an out-of-state student and attend for 12 months and then say, well, I've been here for 12 months. If you enroll as an out-of-state student, the burden shifts to that student. The burden shifts to that student to clearly show that they intend to remain in Georgia upon graduation. And that's a judgment issue. I mean, you have to convince the registrar or someone else in authority on the campus that you have truly changed your residency, that you're just not simply trying to avoid the out-of-state tuition.
The question I have is even though they're in an RYDC, and Representative Mayo, we may need to get Commissioner Niles in here. Do you know him? I know him well. Have you talked to him at all? We need to get him in here. I'll call him and get him in here. So, okay. Posture right now. Let me see if I can get the commissioner to come in, and we'll try to have another meeting. Try to tomorrow afternoon sometime if we can. So, okay. I think that takes care of all the. Yes. I think 1040 I'm in a posture, but on the other one I'd rather wait. And, yeah. I'm just not up to speed on all those issues, and so anyway, that completes our calendar for today. Isn't that right, Courtney? Okay. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.